Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sakrachatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitangscha Sachivam Satvaitam Savadutam Parichana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Ladita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So I'm just doing a very quick introduction today. We have Pujapad Bhaktivedanta Tridandi Maharaj with us today. As Yashodananda Prabhu is always saying, he's zooming in directly from Guttrum Drip. So he is in Sri Navadvip Dham, and he will speak today about Radha Tattva. So now I'm stopped to speak any further, and we are all very eager to hear from you, Maharaj. Dandavat Pranam. Haribol.
Dandavat Manjalali. Thank you. Thank you. And thank everybody for coming also. I'm grateful for everyone coming. Jai. Om Magana Timirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Gurave Gauda Chandraya Radhikaya Taradaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarabhaktaya Namo Namaha Bhaktya Vina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadika. I think you have to mute everybody, Manjalali, because it's a beat behind who's ever singing with me there. Bhaktya Vina Aparara Lakshay Shiptascha Karmadika Rangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charana Ravindam Bhajami Radham Aravinda Netram Smarami Radham Madhurashmitasyam Vadami Radham Karuna Bharadram Tatoma Manasti Kachin Kapi. I first of all offer millions of Dandavat pranams unto the lotus feet of my most beloved Gurudev Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. And I'm offering the same again unto our most beloved Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj and all of the assembled devotees and all of the devotees who may listen to this in the future. My Dandavat pranams to all of you. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. So I'm going to speak today, continuing the mood from Tuesday, which was the Divine Appearance Day of Srimati Radhika. And on Monday was the Appearance Day, Divine Appearance Day of Lalita Sakhi. Lalita Sakhi, we know, is 27 days older than Radhika, yet her Tithi appears always one day before Radhika. It's as if she's cleaning the kunj for the entrance of Radhika. Always, every year, we have an opportunity to dive into the sweetness and speciality of the Braja Gopis the day before Srimati Radhika appears on Tuesday. But just as we give 4 days or sometimes 5 days to glorifying Srila Rupa Goswami on his Tirubhav, which also is a precursor to Radhastami. Without the platform, the foundation that the glorification of Srila Rupa Goswami offers us in listening to so many different presentations and facets of this remarkable personality who we are so indebted to completely. He's like the mother, so to speak, of our Gaudiya lineage. He's taken the teachings from Sachinandan Gaurahari and he's digested them in such a way as to give them to us, to bring them to us. And particularly, of course, in his presentation of Radha Tattva. So Radha Tattva is embodied in the moods of Sachinandan Gaurahari. Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj used to always say Gaura Tattva, Radha Tattva, Gaura Tattva, same. Radha Tattva, Gaura Tattva, same. No difference at all, because Gaura Tattva is the manifestation of Krishna, but carrying the conceptions, the bhav, the mood, the kanti of Sri Radhika. This is our full appreciation. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikritiya Kladini Shakti Asmat Ekatmana. They have become one in the form of Sachinandan Gaurahari. So just for a moment to reflect on the astonishing fortune that we all have, just as Sriman Mukunda Prabhu, he presented the same premise of appreciating our unique fortune at this time in the dense darkness of Kali Yuga. We should appreciate so much this opportunity to speak or even hear the name Radha, Sri Radha. This is phenomenal. Previously, in our Gaudiya tradition, prior to Sachinandan Gaurahari, back 5,000 years ago, nobody 5,000 years ago practically was able to utter the name of Radhika outside of Vrindavan. Radhika was not able to be spoken by Shukadev Goswami in Srimad Bhagavatam. And even Jayadev Goswami in the 12th century, he could not write the remarkable conception of Krishna surrendering to the lotus feet of Sri Radhika. Smaragarala Kandana, Mama Sirasi Mandanam, Dehi Padapalabam, Udaram. He couldn't write this verse where Krishna is expressing his desire to take shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Radhika to mitigate the extreme poison of separation that he was feeling within his heart. So Jayadev Goswami, he couldn't write this. So the whole topic of Radha Tattva is extremely confidential. And yet today, by the mercy of Sachinandan Gaurahari, particularly the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami, we are able to very fluently speak about all aspects of Radha Tattva. We can speak about her, but as far as realization of the truths that we speak, that will manifest according to our sadhan bhajan. There's a beautiful essay some of you may have read by Srila Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami that was just posted on the Rays of the Harmonist. And he's explaining there that one can only enter into these topics of Radha Tattva, Radha Lila, by the depth and proficiency of our sadhan bhajan. We can hear about these topics, perhaps we can repeat them intellectually, etc., but to have any real grasp in the heart of their content, of their magnificence, of their vastness, because the very conception of Radha embodies the total energetic aspect of Krishna. Radha Purna Shakti, Krishna Purna Shakti Man. From the left side of Krishna, from his heart side, manifests Sri Radhika, Swarup Shakti. This is all of Krishna's energy entirely, in its entirety. And from that Swarup Shakti, all other aspects of creation and all the cosmic manifestations, absolutely everything to bring pleasure to Krishna, are manifested originally by Sri Radhika as Swarup Shakti. From Swarup Shakti, the Sandini, Sangvit, the Kladini Shaktis are manifesting ultimately from Radhika. Krishna embodies the Sangvit Shakti. Baladev embodies, is the Ishtadev of the Sandini Shakti. They do all the principal aspects of creation or of cognition, we can say, in relationship to the Chit Shakti. And Radhika, she embodies the entirety of the pleasure potency throughout the entire creation. In Vaikuntha, etc., she is like Lakshmi Devi and the goddesses of fortune. And in even as the bliss of Brahm, the impersonal Brahma Jyoti, this Brahm Anand, this bliss is manifesting from Sri Radhika. And the bliss in this world, whatever experience of happiness may take place in this world, this is Jad Ananda, this is Ananda, all pleasure, all bliss is manifesting directly from Swarup Shakti, from Sri Radhika. So how dear is this potency, is this aspect of Krishna's to Krishna himself. So our entire philosophy, our entire path, our entire practice is about appreciating the immensity of the love between Radha and Krishna, and how is it going to be conceivably possible for us to serve this love? How is it possible for the jiva in this world to serve this love? Initially, we have to even reach that point of desire. We can trace a whole map that initially the jiva is in delusion that he's actually happy in the material world without God or without Krishna, that he's finding some sort of jad anand, this dull pleasure in material, in dull temporary matter. He's finding some pleasure there. But if he's fortunate, after a while, he starts to appreciate that actually he's not happy. Actually, he's suffering. He starts to appreciate the adhyatmic, adhibhautik, adhidevic, these three stringent measurements of suffering that are inflicted on the jiva. And also he's bound totally by the three modes of material nature. So if he starts to appreciate his suffering condition, this is greatly to his advantage as far as the path of devotion is concerned. If you're a demigod in Swagaloka, where everything is so much in the mode of goodness and so dharmic, you don't hardly experience any suffering at all. This is called Bhoga Yoni, the species of pleasure. The devas are experiencing pleasure constantly. So what is their remembrance of Krishna amongst that pleasure sensation that they're experiencing? Practically negligible. They are appreciating Krishna as the master, as the controller in full Aishwarya. Yet what is any conception of manifesting a relationship with that personality? It's described in Swagaloka that Brihaspati is the spiritual master, and he is being described as Brahman realized. So if the spiritual master is accepted as being Brahman realized, then what to speak of everyone else in Swaga? The highest place they can reach is Brahman realization. So really the only place, the springboard for devotion, is in this plane of existence, this earthly plane. In the lower regions, it's called Papa Yoni, the species of sin. So they are taking the fruits of their sinful karmic reactions in the lower regions. But in this world, this is Karma Yoni. We are the species creating karma. And in this world, we can have an opportunity which is often inspired and ignited by the degree of our initially material suffering. It's described in Jivadharma in chapter 16. When the material suffering becomes intense enough, then one may call out to God. Tragically, for the most part, that usually happens just when the person is leaving his body. If he hasn't been educated through his life, just when he's leaving his body in that extreme emergency, so to speak, then he starts to reflect. I had a friend once who worked in a hospice, and he related to me that 3 days before so many of the people left their bodies, they began to inquire about God. It's a natural thing. As the soul is about to leave the body, the conscious, subtle mind becomes aware of that transition that's about to take place. So he starts to inquire about God and creation. But if we're fortunate enough to have been given a book, for example, to have been touched in all of our circumstances by the mercy of Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in some form or other, and our inspiration towards spiritual life has been ignited, then always the first desire of that soul is to become freed from the suffering, freed from the stringent laws of this material prison that we find ourselves in. So this is liberation. So we often come, you will speak to different devotees, and they come with the intention of becoming liberated from matter. And then at some point, if they're blessed with the association of a very high class devotee, they become inspired towards devotion. They become inspired towards devotion. But that devotion is generally, practically always focused on Krishna, because Krishna as the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada trained us and coached us and established within the hearts of the Western followers, Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So without this premise initially, then how can we move into any area of devotion? So once that focus on Krishna, more than liberation, becomes established in the heart of the practitioner, then his bhakti, his devotion, has actually begun. And he begins the various practices of devotional service by glorifying the Vigraha, by glorifying Thakurji, by glorifying the various rules and regulations that are connected with our journey towards Krishna. But at what point does that focus change to Radhika? That changes when we realize fully the personality of Krishna, when we hear sufficiently about the Lord and his individual nature, when we start to appreciate his various manifestations. He is Parthasarathi on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. He's Mathuresh Krishna in Mathura. He's Dwarkadish Krishna, and he's Brajendra Nandan in Vrindavan. So the consciousness starts to appreciate the differences, the nuances in Krishna himself. And gradually, especially if we start to hear more about the Braja pastimes, if we hear about Brajendra Nandan and his most sweet childhood pastimes, for example, with Mother Yashoda, etc., Nanda Baba in the groves of Vrindavan, then gradually, our attraction to Krishna is increasing. And then at some point, when our material selfishness has been purified to a degree that we can consider what will make Krishna happy, what is going to satisfy Krishna, then of course we come to the appreciation only Radhika will ultimately satisfy Krishna. Krishna is so satisfied with the devotion, with the love, the prem of Vatsalya Bhav, with Mother Yashoda, Ananda Baba, etc. But still he's anxious to go to the forest with the sakas and taste this Sakya Bhav. But even though the Sakas, they give their very life and soul to Sri Krishna, still he's anxious to come to Radha Kund at midday, the Madhyana pastimes, for 5 hours every single day. He leaves all the Sakas in the early morning. In Purvana Lila, he leaves his parents. And then in Madhyana Lila, he leaves all the Sakas. And then he goes to Kusum Sarovar, goes to Radha Kund, etc., Surya Kund, goes to all these places exclusively with the gopis. This is what makes Krishna the most happy, when he's associating with all the gopis, but in principle, when he's associating with Sri Radhika exclusively. We see in the 8 yamas of the day, it's divided practically exactly into 12 hours of meeting and 12 hours of separation. Nishanta Lila, right at the beginning, when we first wake up in the morning, we can meditate on the Lord with Sri Radhika after Ratri Lila. Ratri Lila is the final pastime, the previous day, the previous night, so to speak. So from the beginning, we start the cycle in Nishanta Lila at approximately 3:30, something like this. And then our meditation is on the intensity of the union between Radha and Krishna. But then after a short while, that union has to break and goes into separation when Radha and Krishna go to their respective homes in Javad and Nandagaon. And then Krishna is with the cowherd boys, etc., and Mother Yashoda, etc. And then he's coming to Radha Kund at midday. And then the intensity again of their meeting will manifest, where there's no elderly persons around to impede their heart's feelings towards each other. So we can see how the consciousness of the conditioned jeev has to evolve tremendously from, first of all, appreciating that this material world is not a fit place for any gentleman or any person to try to find pleasure in. It starts from there, and then the whole cycle unfolds. And if we're blessed and fortunate, we can come to this place of appreciating Sri Radhika. And then the more and more we hear about the glories of Radhika and the capacity she has to control Krishna, to completely control this controller of all the material and spiritual worlds. Krishna is described in Bhagavad Gita, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matahar sarvam parpatante. He's the controller of all the material worlds and the spiritual worlds. Yet Sri Radhika, she controls him. So when Sri Radhika first sees Krishna, her first desire is to fill him with nothing but happiness. She has that capacity. Krishna is attracted to her. So she has the capacity, because he's attracted to her, because she holds the entirety of devotion. This aradayo, this devotion is what Sri Radhika is immersed in. Devotion to Krishna. Every pore, every facet of her body is only about devotion and pleasing Krishna in every sense. So initially she can appreciate that the Lord is Akila Rasamrita Sindhu. He's of possibilities for pleasure. So Radhika, she manifests from her own body practically unlimited billions of gopis to satisfy each particular nuance of bhav or mood that Krishna may desire to appreciate. Every aspect, like for example, just starting from the top more or less, like Lalita Devi, she has this prakara mood, this pragalpa mood. It's described, she's very bold because she's the greatest friend of Radhika as well as the greatest friend of Krishna. And in order to arrange the pastimes, and bring out the speciality of the eagerness. Because without this dynamic of meeting and separation, there can be no eagerness. So this meeting and separation is vital to the nourishing of all the Leelas. It's described by Srila Gurudev, my Gurudev, that if a man is hungry, then he can fully appreciate a meal. But if he's not hungry, if there's no hunger there, he'll simply play with the preparations. He won't get any pleasure from it. So similarly, this dynamic of separation is vital, is essential to nourishing the meeting, the union that will follow afterwards. So this meeting and separation, this dynamic is constantly flowing in the relationship between Radha and Krishna. So Radhika, as I was saying, she manifests so many Sakhis to please the Lord in all areas. And like Lalita Devi, she has this incredible service because she's totally in love with Krishna as much as she's in love with Radhika. She's called Anuradha. She follows Radhika entirely. She's more inclined to Radhika than she is to Krishna. Yet she still has great affection, of course, unlimited affection for Krishna. And she is so expert in manipulating the sometimes very fraught circumstances to bring Radha and Krishna together. Vishaka also, of course, Champakalata, Chitra, Tungavidyas, Sudevi, Rangadevi, Induleka, all the principal Priyanam Sakhis, they are all so immensely qualified in the art of increasing the eagerness within both moieties, we can say, within both personalities of Radha and Krishna. So this dynamic of meeting and separation is a wonderful contemplation for us to consider. And just going back for a moment to consider historically, how did these truths manifest through the teachings of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? And we see that in his teachings, he was described as the most non-conformist preacher. He broke the bastions within all of the different sampradayas to demonstrate, to bring forward this amazingly confidential, sweet aspect of the purest love between Radha and Krishna, this parakiya ras. So previously, in the Ramanuja Sampradaya, etc., Madhava, Charya, etc., the esoteric descriptions between Radha and Krishna were not described practically at all. So it is Mahaprabhu who is bringing this exclusively, really and truly exclusively. Even we can consider 300 years ago. I was just describing yesterday to some devotees how Govinda Dev in Jaipur was not allowed, was not permitted by the Brahmins, the smarter Brahmins, to have his consort Radhika stand by his side. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur was called. He was incapacitated due to old age, and he sent his Shishya, Baladev Vidyabhushan, and he presented his Govinda Bhasya to that assembly to show the authenticity of Mahaprabhu's line. And then only was Radhika allowed to stand beside Govinda Dev in Jaipur, for example. This was only 300 years ago. So how exclusive is the service and worship to Radhika? How exclusive is the memory and the thought and the contemplation of all of Radhika's glories? So in celebrating Radhastami, as we had on Tuesday, the glories of Radhika are unlimited. She is called Apekshika Adhika Madhya. Apekshika means that there is no one else even close to her position, to her place. The Atyantika Adhika, Atyantika, I'm sorry, not Apekshika. Apekshika are Lalita and Vishaka, etc. Apekshika are the second stage coming from Radhika, we can say. So in the vocabulary of Rasa Tattva, Radhika is described as Atyantika. Atyantika means that there is nothing higher, not even coming close. Apekshika means they are relatively high in relationship to Radhika. So this is the position of Radhika amongst all the other gopis that she has manifested. So we see this amazing appreciation really and truly blossoming and becoming clear to all the practitioners when they contemplate the Rasa Lila. The Rasa Lila is the crest jewel of all Krishna's pastimes. So in the Rasa Lila mandal, when Krishna is manifesting himself between each of the gopis, each gopi considers that Krishna is only with her. So some saubhagya, some proud is coming in their hearts that they alone have captured Krishna. Radhika is she becomes aware of this saubhagya. There are many aspects to this, and I want to try and unpack as many as I'm able to in our brief amount of time, because this particular contemplation really accentuates the topmost beauty and speciality of Sri Radhika. So when Radhika is experiencing that all the gopis, they're not acknowledging sufficiently that she is the ultimate queen of the ras. She is the central figure in the ras. Krishna, of course, he understands this, but the other gopis, they are considering that they have become the center because Krishna is showing them so much attraction and affection. He's wiping the perspiration from their brows, etc. He's touching them. He's smiling so sweetly. He's receiving their glances, and they are feeling that they have actually controlled Krishna. And Radhika, she knows that this is not going to come to the highest pitch of sweetness and happiness for Krishna if the dynamic carries on like that without fully acknowledging that Sri Radhika is the center point. She is the pivotal point. So she leaves the Ras Lila. And immediately she leaves, everything, so to speak, collapses. Because Krishna instantly appreciates that the essential bhav, that Mahabhav, Rudha and Adi Rudha, that were manifesting directly from Radhika has dwindled. Krishna immediately follows Sri Radhika. The other gopis, when they realize that Krishna has left them, their height of separation is increased 1,000,000-fold, because it's the other side of the coin from the height of meeting that they had just experienced. So the apparent separation that they're now experiencing drives them delirious. It's described that they start to seek for Krishna in the forest. This is principally in chapter 30 of the Rasa Panchadiya section of the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev, he's describing all of these topics, but he never mentions the name Radha. Only Mahaprabhu can mention the name Radha. Only Rupa Goswami can mention the name Radha. All of our Guru Vargya can mention the name Radha. But Shukadev, he can't even mention the name Radhika in our highest scripture, the Srimad Bhagavatam. And yet there's a particular verse, as the gopis are madly in their Divyanmad state of consciousness, described like a group of mad women searching in the forest. They're asking the trees, the bushes, the deer, they're asking all the creatures of the forest the direction to where Krishna went. And of course, the gopis, we understand, are in 4 divisions to nourish the speciality. It's so intrinsically arranged by Radhika for Krishna's pleasure. So the swapaksh, swa means own, paksh, path, own group. These are Radhika's camp. And then vipaksh, those who are against Radhika, Chandravali, etc. And then the surit, those who are friendly, more inclined to Radhika. That's like Shamali, etc. And then there is the Tatashta, Bhadra, etc. They are Tatashta. They are actually more inclined or supportive of Chandravali. So you have these 2 camps, or rather 4 camps, to nourish the sweetness and speciality of the meeting and separation between Radha and Krishna. So as all of these 4 groups of gopis are desperately searching for their prananath, that was seeming like a moment ago embracing them and with them in the highest state of Mahabhav, it's described that all the gopis experience this stage of Mahabhav. Krishna also experiences Mahabhav, but he doesn't experience the highest stages of Mahabhav, which are Rudha and Adi Rudha. These stages are described technically according to the height of the sattvika bhavs that are impacted by the experience. There's 8 sattvika bhavs relating to the 5 principal elements within the body: earth, water, fire, air, and ether, etc. So these divisions are there about the intensity of Rudha and Adi Rudha when these moods impact the very elements of this gross body: earth, water, fire, air, and ether. So when these elements are impacted, then these sattvika bhavs manifest. And these sattvika bhavs have 5 divisions of intensity: domyata, ujvalita, dipta, udipta, and sudipta. These 5 intensities of sweetness. And in the highest intensity, when they're fully, it's described blazing, when all 8 of them are blazing, this is described as Madanakya Mahabhav, in meeting. And in separation, that same experience is there, but it's called Mohan Akya Mahabhav, in separation mood. It's the same intensity, but there is some difference. Nevertheless, the extremity of these blazing sattvika bhavs are there. So all the gopis, they experience the lower stages. Only Radhika experiences the highest stage. And Lalita and Vishaka, the Priyanam Sakis, they experience something of Rudha. Rudha is prior to the Adi Rudha. Rudha is actually when 5 sattvika bhavs are blazing. So this is an aspect of Rasa Tattva which helps us to appreciate the sweetness and speciality that is being experienced by Radha and Krishna, in order to give us a appreciation of how can I give my life to service. Ultimately, the sadhak in our lineage wants to only serve Sri Radhika. We understand that by service to Radhika, this is most pleasing to Krishna, but nevertheless, just the experience of sweetness that is manifesting from Sri Radha to her manjaris, to her sakis, is incomparable. So this is our ultimate desire, to serve this Mahabhav. So when the gopis are wandering in the forest in their demented condition, they finally stumble upon the footprints of Radha and Krishna. And immediately, the Swapaksh gopis, those who are favorable to Radhika, they understand immediately, oh, this is our divine Swamini. This is Radhika. They can tell. Radhika has 19 specialities on her lotus feet, like barley corn, disc, umbrella, etc. And they immediately, they can recognize. But the Vipaksh, Surit, and Tatashta gopis, the other gopis, they can't recognize that it's Radhika. But the Swapaksh gopis, they don't say anything because they understand that this might increase some jealousy amongst the other three parties. And this is what Krishna wants to purify. It's a whole science going on here. Krishna wants to purify this conception of camps between the gopis and unify everybody in total affection and honor towards Sri Radhika first. You understand? Very sensitive. It's very beautiful appreciation. So when they see these two sets of footprints, then the gopis, they say the most beautiful verse, Anaya Radhito Nunam Bhagavan Harer Ishvara Yadno Vihaya Govinda Prito Yam Anayad Raha. This is saying, Anaya Radhito Nunam. Nunam means certainly. Anaya Radhito. Only this one particular gopi has worshipped Krishna so much that Krishna has taken this particular gopi away from the whole Rasa Leela, consisting of billions of gopis. Billions. This is Achintya. I think in this whole world, there are 7.9 billion people, but Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says there are 300 billion gopis dancing in the Rasa Leela. So we don't try to take this into a rational place of our minds. This is in Aprakat Leela. This is in the spiritual realm. But that sort of quantity, that sort of vibration, that sort of power, that sort of sweetness and speciality, can we imagine how it, just for a moment, we can't imagine, but we can imagine something because the figures are there. It's given to us like that. So when they say this verse, then three of the camps, the Vipaksh, Surit, and Tatashta, they are feeling some envy towards this most fortunate gopi. Still, because they're holding that Shaubhagya still in their hearts that they were the most fortunate. And now Krishna has demonstrated, actually, I was being partial to this particular gopi. They don't know who this gopi is, but the Swapaksh, they understand this is our Swamini, this is Sri Radhika, and they are rejoicing, they are celebrating when they see her footprints. And then they very carefully, they're following the footprints, because the second lines of those verses, the second two lines are saying, Yanno Vihaya Govinda. This Yanno Vihaya. Vihaya means like separation. This Govinda, he's left us in separation by taking this particular gopi. In the second two lines, they're saying, Bhagavan Harer Ishvara. They're calling Krishna the Supreme Lord. And then in the third line, they're calling Krishna Govinda. There's a difference here in that Bhagavatam is so filled with nuances of appreciation. So when the gopis are saying Bhagavan Harer Ishvara, it means they're appreciating that Supreme Lord. But when they say Govinda, they're feeling some reservation, some hesitation. They're bringing it more to a familiar place, and they're hurt that he should have taken that particular gopi away and left them alone. And then in the final line, Prito Yam Anayad Raha. Anayad means to lead. Raha means a secret place. He's led this particular gopi to a secret place without us and left us in this distraught condition. So gradually they follow these footprints through. And then they comment every time they see the footprints. Oh, they're seeing that Radhika has stopped here. Oh, the footprints have just become in the toes of Krishna as he's reaching for some flowers from a tree. Oh, Radhika, she's sitting here. And then it's described how the Vipaksh gopis, they become unhappy when they see the way, because they're reading from the footprints, they're reading all of the pastimes that Radha and Krishna are experiencing here. And then eventually, when we consider what is Radha and Krishna doing at this point, this is where we have to change scenes, so to speak, and appreciate the mood between Radha and Krishna. Krishna has satisfied Radhika's man, and he is acting as the submissive lover. He's taking a role described as Dakshin Bhav. This means submissive lover. Radhika is in the role of Swadhina Bhartika. She is the role where she's controlling her lover. This is the highest pleasure that the heroine can experience. Krishna, he knows that, so he's taking the role of the submissive lover. And then as they're proceeding through the forest, Radhika, she says at one point, because she's thinking, she knows that her Sakhis are somewhere behind, searching for her frantically. And she also knows that only by the Sakhi's presence can the height of sweetness actually manifest from Krishna. It takes all the other Sakhis to bring out these special flavors from Krishna collectively. So she knows they're coming. Krishna also knows they're coming. They can hear them wailing. We can imagine millions of gopis frantically searching, like looking for their life air, so to speak, in the forest. And then Krishna, he knows that if all the gopis catch us up together, they're going to be unhappy with me. They're going to be unhappy with Radhika. So somehow he has to make a plan, an arrangement to leave Radhika. So the perfect arrangement is manifested by Yogamaya, of course, because at this point, Radhika, wanting the gopis to catch up, she said, oh, I'm so tired now. Now you can either carry me to a flower bed, or you can carry me on your shoulder and keep on walking. So at this point, Krishna, he says, oh, my dear Priyanath, you sit on my shoulder, I will carry you. And as Radhika goes to sit on his shoulder, Krishna disappears. Har Radha Ramana Prishta, Kwasi Kwasi Mahapuja. This beautiful verse is chanted by Radhika at this time. She's Dashyaste Kripanaya Me, Saki Darshaya Sanidim. This beautiful verse is Radhika in her lamentation. She's crying out. She realizes in an instant, Krishna has disappeared. He's left me. Because the awareness of the possibility, the impending separation mood is never so far away. It's always there, like a shadow, to increase the greed between the two. So when Krishna leaves, the height of Radhika's Vipralamba at that point knows no bounds. Then she just collapses completely on the ground, lamenting in such an extremely piteous way. And it's in this condition that all the other gopis find her. And all the other gopis, including Chandravali, including the Surit, the Tatashta, all of them, when they perceive the extremity, the height, the heat of Radhika's separation, they are utterly astonished. They were considering that their separation was the supreme, that no one could be lamenting, no one could be suffering more than them. But when they perceive the height of Radhika's separation, that's when all the gopis unify to glorify Sri Radhika. Devi Krishnamayi Prakta, Radhika Paradevita. Radhika is that supreme. And when they appreciate her supremacy, then the equation has been solved. This is what Krishna wanted to establish, that Radhika should be the queen of the rasa. And simultaneously, all the camps of the gopis should unify to glorify Sri Radhika. So this is the Sri Radhika that we are glorifying today on this Radhastami. So this, I mean, meanwhile, of course, Krishna is in Imlital, feeling also the extremity of separation. And at this time, he touches the mood and kanti of Sri Radhika. He actually becomes a golden color, and he's perceived as being golden. This is the prelude to his manifestation as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he's also feeling this separation from Radhika. So this separation, we should understand, is a transcendental state of consciousness. When we think about separation in the material realm, it's a hurtful, harsh type of thought. But the separation in the transcendental world is completely different. It is transcendental. There's such a speciality of sweetness within that separation that the gopis and Krishna experience. Otherwise, why would it manifest so prevalently within all of the pastimes? So that it's described that actually the gopis, when they are in that height of separation from Krishna, they perceive Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, simultaneously to being their particular beloved. They see Krishna in both ways, in their separation moods. I think for us just to hear about these topics takes us out of this material world completely. These are all totally transcendental topics that have no relevance, particularly in this material world. So for the sadhak to access those topics, more often than not, then we want to spend more and more time in our sadhan bhajan. As I described in the beginning, that Srila Vamana, Bhaktivedanta Vamana Goswami Maharaj, he said that we can only appreciate these topics specifically when we have sufficient sadhan bhajan to actually appreciate the speciality of them. So then, of course, when Radhika's glories and supremacy had been established by all the gopis, then all together they go to the banks of the Jamuna, to the beautiful, pristine, white, sandy beach of Jamuna, where there's no trees obstructing, because now they're going to sing their most beautiful, heartfelt lament and prayer to invoke Krishna to quickly return to all of them. But Radhika is the central point now. So when they sing, Jayati te dikam janmana braja shrayata indira shashwaratrahi daita drishyatas tavata savas daita dishavas tvam vichimbate Saraduda Shaya, etc. This Gopi Geet, one of the most beautiful Geets of the 5 Geets of the Bhagavatam. They're like the 5 life airs, the Venu Geet, Pranaya Geet, Gopi Geet, Yugal Geet, and Brahmara Geet. These are the 5 songs of separation chanted by the gopis. So these Geets are a wonderful meditation for us to appreciate. And it's all about separation. In these moods of separation, these moods of separation are increasing the greed, the enthusiasm. Without the greed and the enthusiasm, we are like dead wood. We cannot move. Our bhajan, our practice must be fueled with this greed in one form or another. And simply by taking this remarkable jewel that is only manifest now in the darkness of this Kali Yuga, this Maha Mantra, by drinking this elixir of the Maha Mantra, which has been empowered directly by Krishna and Sri Radhika, empowered to give us what? To give us this enthusiasm, to give us this greed to hear about these pastimes, to become immersed in these pastimes, to genuinely consider, who is Radhika? How can I please Sri Radhika? The mood of all the manjaris, which is the only mood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. Mahaprabhu has not come to give Sakhi Bhav. He's only come to give Manjari Bhav. This is the only mood. My Gurudev explains that that mood of a Manjari is given directly by Rupa Goswami, Rupa Manjari, by Sanatan Goswami, Lavanga Manjari, Jiva Goswami, Vilasa Manjari, all of our Guru Varga, they are all Manjaris. So this line, this is our line, this is our heritage. This is who we are. We are the products of the teachings coming originally from Rupa Goswami. So we have this empowered Mahamantra. Previously, the Hare Krishna mantra was there. Throughout the ages, the Mahamantra is always there. It's eternal, of course. But it was never liberally distributed to such a degree as it is today. So this Mahamantra, when we take shelter of this Mahamantra, particularly if we can take shelter of this Mahamantra and be remembering the sweetness and speciality of Sri Radhika, the sweetness of her glories, they are inconceivable. There was a time once in Javat when Sri Radhika wanted to arrange a meeting with Krishna. And Krishna also was wanting a meeting. And Radhika, she sent one Sakhi, indicating to Krishna, oh, let us meet in Bakula Kunj in Govardhan. Krishna received this secret message of where the rendezvous would be. He sent a garland back with that Sakhi, Chandramukhi, to Radhika, confirming, yes, I will meet you there this evening. At 10 o'clock, 10:30 that evening, Radhika and all her Sakhis, she had fully prepared herself to travel to the meeting place to meet with Krishna. And just at that very moment, Abhimanyu arrived in Javat with Govardhan Malla, the husband of Lalita Devi, and another friend. Three of them arrived. Immediately, Jyotila, she called to Radhika, 10:30 at night. Oh, your husband, Abhimanyu, he's hungry. And he's brought two visitors with him. Quick, you have to feed them nicely. Radhika, totally dharmic personality. There's no question of not fulfilling her dharma. So immediately, she begins cooking. But she's very worried. She's thinking, oh, I have to do this very quickly because otherwise I will miss the rendezvous. Meanwhile, Krishna has arrived at the rendezvous place, at the Kunja in Govardhan. And he's surprised that Radhika isn't there. Generally, Radhika is always there before Krishna. So he thinks, oh, she'll be here in a few minutes. And then he thinks, well, before she comes, I'll decorate the Kund really beautifully. So he takes a broom and he begins to sweep every little grain of dust and sprinkles water on the floor. And then he begins to make the most amazing, elaborate canopy of flowers and the most amazing bed that he thinks no one has ever seen such decorations. I can show these gopis how to really make decorations, he's thinking. And the real artist of Krishna directly manifests. And he makes the most incredible decorations in the kunj. Beautiful matching flowers, etc., the color tones, everything. Absolutely breathtakingly beautiful. He makes a beautiful archway to the kunj. Everything is beautiful. But he's wondering, where is Radhika? Why is she so late? He starts to become a little impatient. And then he leaves the kunj. And he thinks maybe she's gone to another kunj. So he goes to Radha Kund, he goes to Shama Kund, he goes to many different kunds in the area, kunjas and kunds in the area, seeking for Radhika. He can't find her anywhere. Where is she? Where is she? Then he comes back to Bakula Kund, Bakula Kunj, and still she's not there. And then some impatience starts to come in his heart. Oh, these women, he's thinking, why am I doing all this stress and strain? Why am I going everywhere for this? And then he starts to become some disappointed. Then he starts to become angry with Radhika. Why is she so late? Practically the night is halfway through. She hasn't come. And then he becomes really unhappy, really disturbed, and thinks, what is it to run around and chase these women like this? Why am I doing like this? This is all Maya. He's thinking, this is how my material energy has been described, Maya, chasing after the women like this. He becomes angry. So then he starts in his disturbance to break all the beautiful decorations he's made. He starts to break them all apart. And then he runs back home to Nandagan and goes into bed, pulls the covers over his head, and he's weeping. He's so unhappy. Meanwhile, Radhika, she's become so impatient also with this cooking that she's had to do. And she sends one Saki to the kunj to check out what's happening. Is Krishna there? And then the Saki goes to the kunj and she sees, wow, this was so beautifully decorated, but someone's destroyed it all. Someone's torn it all up. This must be Krishna. And he must have become really unhappy. So she runs back to Radhika and she tells her. Radhika's heart is so disturbed to hear this. She's already disturbed that she can't actually be at the rendezvous. But now she's appreciating Krishna's abject disappointment. She's really disturbed. So now Krishna, he's gone back to Nandagan. He's in bed. In the morning time, Mother Yashoda, she comes to wake him up. Krishna is resolved, now I'm just going to be brahmachari. No more of this with the gopis. I had enough of this. Too much stress and strain, etc. So he's taking this vow. He's resolving internally like this. Mother Yashoda, she comes in and she starts to open the curtain. Krishna says, no, I don't want to see that golden sun. Close the curtain, close the curtain. I don't want to see anything gold. And then Mother Yashoda, what's wrong? Lala, why problem? Oh, I just don't want to see anything golden today. So Mother Yashoda, okay, so let's get dressed. And then Krishna says, no, I won't wear that golden dhoti. I'll wear Daubai's blue dhoti today. Don't give me anything golden. She starts to put his bracelets on. No, I don't want to wear golden bracelets. I'll wear silver bracelets today. Nothing gold. I don't want to see anything golden. Mother Yashoda, she's disturbed. What's happening here? And then Krishna says, I'm sick. I'm not going to go and milk the cows with Nanda Baba. So Mother Yashoda, she tells Nanda Baba, go and milk my special cows and bring some special milk. I have to feed Krishna a very special preparation because he's not well today. So then Krishna, he's lying in the bed and he doesn't want to see anything golden at all. Then Mother Yashoda says, what happens when you go to the cow grazing fields? When you come downstairs, you're going to see the golden cage of your parrot. Krishna immediately says, change that golden cage to blue. We should paint it blue immediately. I just don't want to see anything golden. And then Purnamasi and Dhanishta Devi, they come to Nandagan to see Krishna. They come every morning. And they see Krishna doesn't even want to see them. He's saying, no, I'm brahmachari. I don't even see any women. And then Purnamasi, she's talking, she's making so many jokes. But Krishna's not responding at all. And then word quickly goes back to Radhika that Krishna is completely disturbed about the situation last night. He's totally unhappy. So Radhika, she becomes really disturbed also. So she makes the most beautiful, delicious preparations and sends them across with Dhanishta Shaki to Mother Yashoda for Krishna's breakfast. I appreciate that some of you have to leave because I'm speaking a little bit over my time here, but I won't go very much further. I'll let you go to your activities. But if you want to go, of course, don't hesitate. Don't let me hold you back. Don't feel you have to sit in politeness on the Zoom. Please go to your various activities. So when those preparations arrive, Krishna won't touch them. He doesn't even want to look at them. He says, no, I will just take this little bit of rice that Mother Yashoda's made today, and I will take these milk preparations. That's all I'm taking. I'm not going to take any of those because I know they're being cooked by that woman. He doesn't even want to say her name. So when Radhika understands that Krishna is fasting, then immediately she begins fasting. Of course, because she only eats the remnants of Krishna. She eats nothing else except the remnants that he leaves for her. She subsists on nothing else. So then this is a very big difficulty now. So all the Sakis come. Radha is completely disturbed. What are we going to do about this? And then the Sakis, they begin to describe, but when you go into such a high state of man, then Krishna, he disguises himself sometimes as a Saki. So perhaps you should make yourself disguised. Why don't you disguise yourself as a sannyasi, as a brahmachari, and then go to Nandagaon and then break Krishna's man in this way? So Radhika, yes, this is the only way to do it. So the Sakis, they take Radhika aside and they tie a very tight cloth around her breasts and they put her in complete saffron robes and they tie her in a top knot, her hair, and they decorate her face very beautifully. When the Sakis ever disguise Krishna or Radha, it's almost like another person manifests. You can't tell who it is at all. In many of the pastimes of Krishna, he's disguised as a Saki. And you can't tell who it is. Vrinda Devi, Yoga Maya, she makes the arrangements so expertly. So Radhika now is carrying a kamandalu and she's walking in the streets to Nandagaon to break Krishna's man. She comes to the house. As she's walking on the path, her effulgence is so radiant that all the people, the Brijvasis, they're seeing this effulgent sannyasi coming and they're just totally mesmerized with her potency and power. And they feel such well-being when they come close to her. They just feel so euphoric when they see her. And even people begin begging initiation from her. She's playing the part so well. She's offering benedictions and blessings all along the road like this. And then she comes to the house of Nanda Baba and the doorman opens the door. Yes. And then she says, I'm begging some charity here, some bhiksha. So they tell Mother Yashoda. Mother Yashoda comes and this sannyasi, she says, yes, I want some bhiksha, but I cannot accept anything except from the hand of a brahmachari. So Mother Yashoda is thinking, well, which brahmachari? Oh, yes, Krishna. He's taken this vow of brahmachari today. He doesn't want to see any woman or anything. And Mother Yashoda, she's so much impressed by the effulgence and beauty and sweetness of this sannyasi at the door. She runs to Krishna and said, oh, Krishna, you must come and offer some bhiksha to this sannyasi. Krishna said, no, I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to go anywhere. But Mother Yashoda said, no, this is a very, very powerful brahmachari. And he will encourage your brahmachari mood. You should come and offer some bhiksha to this brahmachari. So Krishna comes to the door and he sees this most effulgent, incredibly wonderful, powerful, potent looking sannyasi. And immediately all of the darkness that Krishna experienced from missing the rendezvous with Radhika immediately evaporates. And again, he starts to feel absolutely wonderful again in the company of this sannyasi. And he's thinking, wow, the potency of this sannyasi must be this brahmachari vesh, this brahmachari mood that is giving this intoxicating mood of sweetness to me. And then he approaches that sannyasi. He says, oh, what bhiksha is it that I can offer you? And then Radhika, she says, I just want your love and affection. And as soon as she says like this, she says, first of all, I am the daughter of Sripada Maharaj, and I just want your love and affection. As soon as she says like this, Krishna, he sees her, and he's so much in bliss by seeing the beauty of her in this disguise as a sannyasi, that all of the previous thoughts just completely run away. And then Mother Yashoda, she comes, oh, Krishna, so now you're happier. So, and then Krishna says, yes, Mother, but now it's getting a bit late, and this brahmachari has nowhere to stay. Perhaps she should stay with me in my room. And then Mother Yashoda, yes, of course. He can give you instruction in brahmachari life. Very, very good, yes. So they make arrangement for Radhika to spend the night in Nandagam. So this beautiful pastime is one of the elaborate pastimes, so elaborate. Krishna loves to play. He loves to play with the cowherd boys. He loves to play with Baladev. He loves to play with the gopis. He loves to play in so many ways. And this play, when it's centered and focused on meeting with Radhika, it goes beyond comparison in sweetness and speciality. So this particular pastime is written by Manohar Das in his book Vaidagdha Vilas. And it's also spoken by Govinda Das in one of his songs, the Nityasiddha Parika of Mahaprabhu. In one of his songs, he describes this particular pastime. So this particular pastime, I think, brings us to our conclusion of appreciating that Radhika is our only Ishtadev, and the power of the holy name is the way to make that connection with her in service. Jai, Vanchakalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhavebhya, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha. Srimati Radharani ki Jai, Vrishabhanan Maharaj ki Jai, Go Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.
Wow.
So I don't think we have much time for questions, but we'll see. Maybe one, if there's one particular question.
One question has been written from Sulochan. She's writing, Maharaj, how does the mood of Radhika when she feels separation from Krishna shown in the 5th verse of Sri Shiksastakam, Ainanda Tanucha Kinkaram Patitamam Vishameva, and so forth? So this is her question. How does the
in this 5th verse, the first 4 verses are like the verses of Mahaprabhu, his moods escalating. And the 5th verse, Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, Ainanda. This verse is spoken as if a female is speaking this verse. Mahaprabhu in the male identity by the time it comes to this 5th verse of Shikshastakam. And in this verse, then Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram, he's expressing that how this Kinkaram, Ainanda Tanuja, how can I serve the son of Nanda, Ainanda Tanuja? Tanuja is son of Krishna, but it's coming from a mood of Sri Radhika. Radhika is inspiring this verse in the heart of Mahaprabhu. It's fully Radha Bhav, this verse. This verse, Mahaprabhu is chanting in that mood completely. Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Bam Vishvam Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Parabangaja Stuti Duli Sadarishim Vachintaya. That he just wants to become a speck of dust on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. Radhika wants to become a speck of dust on the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. She's praying like this. This is in a mood of Radhika. So that's as much as I want to go into.
Thank you.
Can go further,
It was
of course.
so
we'll just leave it there.
Wonderful. Sorry?
No, I'm just saying that her question could be more elaborate, but I'll just leave it there. Prakashatma has no comment. He always has a good, healthy comment.
He's writing absolutely amazing. Thank you very much, dear Maharaj. He was writing.
Oh, okay.
But maybe he also wants to comment. I don't know.
Okay, so if there's no questions, no comments, then I'll close. Everyone must be running for their lunch or noontime duties. So thank you all so much for attending this meeting today. And even though it might have been an inconvenient time for many of you, I appreciate your being here. Okay, Prabhus. So
thank you for being with us.
thank you so much. Okay. Dhanyavas. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha. Kripa sindhavivcha. Patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namaha. Hare Krishna. Srimati Radhika ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.